Wedding season is usually exciting and provides joy and happiness to families. Let's observe how Mehrunissa's wedding festivities are going. A few days later, the pre-marriage celebrations began. Mehrunissa was put in seclusion in a separate room till the auspicious day. Her hands and feet were covered with henna. The gay songs that usually accompany wedding ceremonies were not sung, for after all, this was Maulvi Abul Barkat's residence. Music of any kind could not be allowed in his house. So, the village girls simply sat in a circle round the shy bride and for several nights sang songs of love and friendship, flowers and their fragrance, and the romantic rainy season which has a special significance for young men and women in the rural Punjab. They also sang sweet songs of the excitement of union and the pangs of separation. On the other hand, nobody could restrain Shamim Ahmed from celebrating his marriage any way he desired. So he came to marry Mehrun amidst fireworks with musicians playing gay tunes. That night, after a lot of whispering in one corner of the house, many trunks were dragged out and opened. The next morning, when the dowry was exhibited in the courtyard, the entire village was stunned by what it saw. People were not impressed much with the colorful clothes, for this was not unusual. But the jewelry, it was incredible. Some secretly believed that the Maulvi had a special amulet whose charm blessed him with secret power to get as much money as he desired from the angels. In the crowd, there was also a loud-mouthed old hag who seemed to have other views. In a loud whisper, she pointed out that several suits in the dowry had once belonged to a woman who had died young. There were others which had been part of Zebun's dowry. Even the bracelets and the gold nose ring are hers, she added with conviction. But the gold pendants? She raised her eyes and looked towards the heavens as if they were a gift from there. After the ceremonies were over, Mehrun was made to sit in a palanquin, beautifully decorated. It was covered with a large silken cloth so that the bride could go to the bridegroom's house in strict parda, as two sturdy villagers carried it away. Maulvi Abul walked a few steps with it. He must have cried silently, for his eyes and nose were red, and he looked pale. At the same time, he looked at peace. As he went back to his house, Zebunissa suddenly appeared from behind the door. She held his hand and burst into tears. "Look at this house," she said, sobbing. "Without Mehrun, doesn't it look like a graveyard?" Maulvi Abul smiled and consoled her. "Don't be silly, Zebun. Has Mehrun taken Zabda also with her? What about Shamsun?" Suddenly, he remembered something. "Arif's mother, where is Zabda?" he asked in a whisper. "Inside, crying," she replied. "Zabda," Maulvi Abul called her. A few minutes later, Zabda came out of the room. She looked sad. There were large dark patches of tears on her new pink headcloth. The Maulvi said to his wife, "Arif's mother, have you noticed?" he whispered. "This Zabda of ours has suddenly grown up." There was silence for a while. Then Maulvi Abul said, perhaps to reassure himself more than his wife, "Don't worry. Allah Almighty is kind and benevolent. It's a sin to lose faith." Oblivious of his surroundings, Maulvi Abul's mind was racing elsewhere. As if in a trance, he had called Shamsun. Slowly, his third daughter came forward and began walking towards them. A few months after Mehrun's marriage, a primary school for girls was opened in the village. All these years, Maulvi Abul had two main sources of inspiration in which he had implicit faith. The first one was Almighty Allah, and after him, Chaudhry Fateh Dad. It was certainly Allah's benevolence that sinners like Maulvi Abul and Zebun Nisa were still alive, and that all their children were living and Mehrun had been married with such splendor. What a beautiful story of love and confidence in Allah. It strengthened my faith in Allah, who takes care of all our problems much beyond our expectations. Let's discuss the various events of the story in the next video.